All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and your interest in this project. My name is Rachel Luton. I am a public affairs specialist with the Bureau of Land Management, and I'm happy to welcome you here today. It looks like we have 5 attendees right now. We expect, folks will continue to join. It's just 6 o'clock right now. And so again, we'll get started in just a minute. All right. I already announced myself and shared my name earlier, but my name is Rachel Luton, and I'm a public affairs specialist with the BLM. I am so excited to welcome you here to the Bureau of Land Management San Rafael Swell Travel Management Plan public scoping meeting. This is the second of 2 online meetings. We held a meeting also on Tuesday of this week. So thanks for joining us. Go ahead, Dan. Oh, looks like we're having a little bit of a screen share issue, but while we're working on that, what I will say is, we do really appreciate your time tonight. We'll have information about, the scoping period to share with you, as well as, some guidance on how to submit your public input. So you'll see on the screen right now, this is the project NEPA number. So the National Environmental Policy Act number. You'll be able to use this number to help you better find the project on the ePlanning website, but we'll put the ePlanning website information also in the chat for this meeting too. But we do really appreciate your time. We're so grateful to have you here today, and we look forward to speaking with you. Let's go to the next slide and we'll go over some logistics with folks. So, first off, we just want to remind everyone to respect all attendees and panelists. We are so appreciative of our panelists who are specialists and our leaders who are spending our time with us tonight to kind of share information and really engage with you. So we appreciate that. We also appreciate all of you for your interest, and we do encourage you to either submit your comments to us through ePlanning, or if you have questions, please do use the Q&A portal at the bottom of your screen to submit those questions. A common question we get with these meetings: your microphones are not enabled and neither are your cameras right now. However, we do appreciate your input and your questions in the Q&A portal. That's just at the bottom of your screen. You can click that and you'll see where you can input your question. This meeting is our public scoping meeting, and where they're doing the introductory part of this project. We look for your input to help us shape the analysis and the rest of the process. The official comments should be submitted through the BLM's ePlanning website. We'll go through that process with you. You'll also have the option to submit comments a couple other ways, but other folks will talk about those. So if you do have any technical difficulties you want to share, anything like that, please do use our Q&A portal. And now I'm going to introduce you to Lance Porter. Lance is our district manager for the BLM's Green River District. Hi, Lance.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you very much, Rachel, for that introduction. As Rachel said, my name is Lance Porter. I'm the district manager for the Green River District located in Vernal, Utah. The Green River District encompasses both the Price Field Office as well as the Vernal Field Office. Tonight, I want to welcome you to the San Rafael Swell Online Travel Management Plan Scoping Meeting. Thank you for being here and participating with us. This evening, we'll have a great presentation given by our staff and specialists, and they will walk through our process and how you can best participate in the online travel management planning process in our scoping meeting tonight. So to do this, I'll first introduce you to 2 of the field managers. The first field manager is located in Price Field Office, and that's Chris Conrad. He's the field manager there, and the Price Field Office has primary lead for this project. Chris, you want to say hello?
I do. Welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. As Lance said, I'm the field manager. I've been here for about 12 years in the area and the field manager for the last three years. And I'm excited to do this project. And later on, looking forward to answering any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. A portion of this project also falls within the boundaries of our Richfield BLM field office. And Joelle McCarthy is the project or the field manager in Richfield. So Joelle, you want to pop on and say hello?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Joelle McCarthy. I'm the field manager for the Richfield field office, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Joelle. Appreciate that. I just want to reiterate the value of the information that you can provide in this process. Each of you participating tonight is an integral part of the planning process, and we value your input. Thank you again for joining us and participating in this important public scoping meeting. BLM really appreciates the time and the energy and the expertise that you will share with us during our comment period. We will now transition to the Price Field Office Manager, where he will explain and tell us more about the project.
Hey, Chris, it doesn't look like we're hearing you yet. If you want to unmute yourself and turn on your camera, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm sorry I jumped the gun. Again, Chris Conrad. I'm going to take you through the overview and background information section. And for the most part, I'll be reading from a PowerPoint that's going to be available on our e-planning website. So the purpose and need of the travel planning project is to clearly and comprehensively designate inventoried and evaluated routes within the travel management area, the TMA, as open, limited, or closed to off-highway vehicle use, and to adopt a travel management plan, thus creating an OHV travel network that provides predictability and clarity for users, reduces user conflicts, protects both natural and cultural resources, meets access needs, increases public safety, and addresses enforceability issues. The need for the project is driven by the Bureau of Land Management's obligation to comply with the 2017 settlement agreement and the decisions and objectives reflected in the 2008 Resource Management Plan. The BLM is reviewing approximately 2,000 miles of existing routes in the San Rafael Swell travel management area. The travel management area encompasses portions within the Price and Richfield field offices. The BLM intends to designate each road as open, limited, or closed to OHV use, creating an OHV route network. Note, the term public OHV includes passenger vehicles in addition to traditional OHVs, such as four-wheel drives, side-by-sides, and motorcycles. Each route has been reviewed by an interdisciplinary and an interagency team of specialists who've identified the purpose and need for the route and resources present on or near each of the evaluated routes. The TMP would ultimately designate a network of routes throughout the TMA, again, as OHV open, OHV closed, or OHV limited, and incorporate implementations, actions, signs, reclamation, and etc., to ensure that the route designations are made clear to the users on the ground. On the right side of the slide, you can see that those three designations are defined. Open, a route that is recommended open for all modes of travel and uses. Limited, a route that's recommended for limited use by travel mode user or season of use. Or closed, a route that's recommended for permanent closures to OHVs, though other authorizations may continue. An OHV closed route may be reclaimed, barriers may be installed, and signs may be placed. The travel plan will not result in any new roads. This travel plan will not make OHV decisions on lands owned or managed by private, state, or federal agencies other than BLM. Though routes over non-BLM may be displayed on maps for connectivity and navigation purposes. This travel planning effort and resulting TMP are not intended to provide evidence bearing on or address the validity or any revised RS 2477 assertions. And with that, we'll take you back to Dan Kaufman, our project manager.
Thank you, Chris, for that introduction. Thank you all for coming here tonight. I know it's late and you're all with your families and doing all the things, but we really do appreciate you taking your time and coming out and spending an hour with us to go over this. Over the next couple of slides, I'm going to be going over the project area and just kind of show you where it is in comparison with the state and the field office boundaries. And then we'll go into a little bit of the process and we'll talk about where we are on the process and where we're headed. And then we'll just talk about some ways that you can comment on the project itself. So without further ado, we'll move forward. So as you can see here, we have two maps here, and obviously there's this map over here on the left. It's a map of Utah, but above and beyond all that, you'll see this bounding box here, and this is pretty much generally where the project is taking place. You'll also see these different delineations and colors on the map, and this is just basically the BLM, where the BLM boundaries are here within the state. So as you can see right here, this purple area up here on the upper right corner, that's the Green River District, and it composes the Vernal Field Office and the Price Field Office. And then we have this brown section down here, which is the Color Country District, and the Richfield Field Office is in this portion right here. And I bring all this up here to show you where the project is, but just to give you a scope of, this is going into the Richfield Field Office. There's a boundary here. This is the county lines in between Sevier and Emery County. And if you just follow that line over here to this map, this is a close-up version of the travel management area. And it's all surrounded by this purple here. And this section over here is in Sevier County, and these sections over here are in Emery County. And this map also has a bunch of other land designations on it as well. I'm not going to get into all of those, but this is just to basically show you where the project is in relation to all the other land designations and all of this brown area BLM land interspersed with other state and other land holders here. So I'll move on to the next slide. So next we're going to talk about the environmental review process and where we are. So right now we're in the public scoping section of our environmental review process. And that basically started February 1st and it's going to run to March 3rd, 2021. And you can see, and let me back up for just a sec. I mean, this is really just a simplified view. There are many, many, many other processes that have happened in here, and it doesn't even begin to share with you all the work that's going into these travel management plans. So we're in the first public feedback portion. We are going to have another public feedback portion. That's going to be the public comment period, and that's tentatively scheduled for June 2021, and so on and so forth. The rest of these are tentative dates, and we're tentatively hoping to sign in November of 2021, if we can get through this process without any hiccups. So moving on to the next slide. Which is what we need from you, the public and interested stakeholders. Just a quick definition of public scoping. The purpose of public scoping It's basically the process is to provide agencies, members of the public, the interdisciplinary team with a opportunity to provide input on the scope of the proposed project. And we kind of put these points of helpful consideration, but these are really questions that are going to just help us get to that endpoint and help us to make sure that we've crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's and done everything we can to make sure that this project is being done the correct way. So some of the things that you could help us with are, are there any resources in the area that a particular road affects that we should address by either disclosing or mitigated? I said this before in another meeting, but this is a really large project area, and with a project this size, we, the BLM, we do our best to use the most up-to-date information and science to guide our work. However, it's quite possible that we could have missed something. So another thing that could help us is, does the public know of any roads that have a particular OHV purpose or need that we should consider? Does the public have strong opinion on any routes with consideration to whether OHV should or should not be should be allowed there or should not? So those are just a few of the questions, and then now we're going to get into the ways that you can comment. And I just want to preface this. We already talked about the dates from February 1st to March 3rd, 2021. The best way for you to comment is through our e-planning website for this project. And this website right here, this little link will take you directly to that. And that's where all the official comments should go, right there. We do have other options available. I mean, we have the price email comments box here as a way for you to comment on this project. We also have the interactive web map, and you can also mail your comments into the Price Field Office. However, the official way to comment on this project would be going to this website and commenting through the e-planning comment tool. And I'm just going to use the next few slides to kind of go over how you can do that. Comment on the comment tool or comment on the interactive web map. So I'll just move forward here. So, and it really is as easy as these 4 steps on these next 4 slides. It's as easy as copying that web link that we had on the previous slide and on this one, and just putting it in your web browser and hitting enter. The next step, it'll automatically take you to the e-planning website for this project. It'll look just like this. And once you get there, there'll be a green Participate Now tab, and that's where you're going to go. You're going to hit that Participate Now tab, and then it'll take you here. And it'll actually show 2 of them because there's 2 Participate Now. There'll be one for the interactive map, and this one is for the scoping document, which is on the website. So you could hit that Participate Now button for that document or the interactive map, and then it'll take you to the comment area. So there are some predefined boxes that'll ask you to fill out some information there, and then it'll have a box where you can begin your comment, and then at the end of it, there'll be a button to hit enter down at the bottom. And that's pretty much the steps on how to comment on the document. The next 5 slides are pretty much the same thing. It's, copy that link into the browser, go to the website, hit Participate Now on the Participate Now. So this is the one that shows both the map, the interactive map, and the scoping document. So this time we're going to go to the interactive map. And once you hit that interactive map, the map will begin to render within e-planning right on your web page. So you'll see these tools up here in the upper right corner, and I kind of blew up this one because this is the comment tool, the add comment tool on the interactive map. So you'll be able to go there, hit that one that looks like a little piece of paper flipped over, and it'll bring up this select existing feature or create new feature. Generally, you're going to select existing feature, and then you're going to select a route that you want to comment on. And once you select that route on the screen, it'll highlight. So as you can see on this one, SS 1404, for the example, it highlighted itself, and then it'll bring up this add comment, and you just fill out the appropriate information on here. This is actually the bottom. I didn't have enough room, so I put it off to the side. But this is the bottom. You would scroll down on this, and you would come down to this. And then once you finish your comment, put your name, phone number, and all the appropriate information in here. If you had a document that you wanted to attach to that comment, to make it better or whatever, you can add a document there, and then you can submit your comment. And that's pretty much it. This next slide is pretty much the directions that we just went through on those 4 slides condensed. And that's how you comment on this. And we really are looking forward to your comments. We hope to get some good feedback from you, and hopefully we can make this a really good document. So with all that said, I'm going to leave this on the screen here for a little bit, and I am going to pass it back to Rachel. The next little bit of our conversation tonight is going to be us answering the questions that you submit to us. We may not be able to get to all of them tonight. However, we will respond to them in some way. We are limited on time. So with that said, Rachel, if you wanted to take back, it's all you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Dan, and thanks to you for kind of walking us through that process, but also to our leaders for kind of sharing their knowledge of this effort as well. Really appreciate that. So we also, tonight we'll address some frequently asked questions that we get to. So the first question we wanted to address, and I'm going to direct this one to Lance, is what is a substantive comment? And Lance, go ahead and unmute your mic, and then
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. I was clicking unmute, but it wasn't coming off, so sometimes that happens. So we got it now. I appreciate that comment. The comment was, what is a substantial comment? The most helpful comments, it's helpful if they're specific as possible. A substantive comment provides new information about the proposed action, an alternative, or the analysis, and can identify a different way to meet the needs, point out specific flaws in the analysis, suggest alternative methodologies, and the reasons why they should be used to make factual corrections, or identifies a different source of credible research, which, if used in the analysis, could result in different effects. Generally, substantive comments will assist us by looking at the methodology, providing data, being pretty specific on thoughts and concerns about a certain route. And there are things that we can really analyze in the environmental assessment that might cause changes or revisions in one or more of the alternatives. So appreciate that opportunity to respond. Thank you, Rachel.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lance. So we had another question come in about the travel management plan, and this one's from Peter. And Peter says, does part of the travel management plan involve enforcing OHV access restrictions? And I'll direct this one to Chris. So Chris, if you could turn on your camera, unmute yourself. And again, this question is, does part of the travel management plan involve enforcing OHV access restrictions?
Thanks for reminding me on the camera. So yes, it does. In the end, they'll be open, limited, and closed. If they are closed, they will be restricted, and depends on what type of reclamation is needed. Sometimes we'll just take a rake and smooth it out so that you can't see it. Sometimes it'll take a sign, and other times it might even take a cable or something like that. But those things will all be worked out through the travel management plan.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And we got, I'm going to go to one of our emailed questions. Lance, this one's for you. The person, or Ray sent us some questions in advance. Thanks, Ray. How many miles of routes is the BLM showing on our current, or is currently designated for motorized use? And is the BLM going to provide the new public maps for scoping and planning that distinguish between designated routes and not designated routes? And Lance.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome.
Appreciate that. Yep. There will be several opportunities for us to take a look at a lot of these questions. And some of the questions that you folks are asking are just great questions. And they're things that we really want to have a deliberative, thought out process and take a hard look at with our ID team. And it's difficult to just throw out an answer here live without me taking a look, looking at the data, looking at the maps, what data we have on the ground, and then responding with an appropriate response. So I think most of those questions, it would be better for the commenter to go ahead and fill out a comment and submit it through our public process, and we will take a hard look at it. And that's really the purpose of scoping. So it's a great comment. There are great questions there that have been submitted to us. And I would just encourage you to jot down them questions. That way it tracks it for you, that you submitted the agency a comment, and it tracks it for us so that we can really take a hard look at it and make sure that we cover those concerns. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lance. We got another question from Ben that is the planning map detailed enough to be able to see where the trails are? And I'm actually going to answer this one. The map is detailed enough, so feel free to kind of zoom in, see those, and you can also turn on aerial imagery to help you kind of find yourself or help see more information about the route. So thanks for that question too. Ben also asked another question about the map being overlaid or pulled into other electronic formats. And also a great question, Ben, but the map, at this time, we can't overlay that map into Google Earth, but we hope that you can use the online commenting tool to look at that, and certainly let us know if you have specific questions about that map. So thank you. All right, we're going to go to another one of our questions. Which area will this travel management plan cover? And I'm going to direct this one to Chris. So what area will this travel management plan cover? I know we talked a little bit about this before, but giving people a refresher is always good.
So this travel management plan includes a little bit of Richfield and the Price Field Office. It's generally in the Swell area, but we have kind of a northern detached area, Cedar Mountain, which is probably another 25% of the entire travel management area. So it's almost 90% in Emery County, a little bit over in the Richfield, Sevier County. And I think that's it in the geographic location for it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Chris. So another question that we've heard from a few folks is related to the John D. Dingle Act, or the Dingle Act as people call it. And I'll direct this one to Lance. Will this travel management plan be subject to the new designations in the Dingle Act as prescribed by Congress? And how will that impact the management of this area going forward?
Yeah, our agency will definitely be looking at the Dingle Act and making sure that what we do complies with the Dingle Act and meets the intent of that law. All decisions moving forward will be a new decision in this area. And so the agency will take a hard look at those decisions, but we will be reviewing the Dingle Act as we move forward. So if you have a specific concern about a certain route, for example, I would just encourage you to throw a comment in on that route through our public comment site, and we can take a look at those concerns so that we include it in our analysis.
Thanks so much, Lance. Before we get to some other questions, I did want to follow up on the Google Earth question. I should have also shared that it's actually, we can also provide the downloadable we also provided the downloadable GIS files that can be provided in Google Earth. So there is a way that you actually can use Google Earth, or you can actually use Google Earth on the web map, Google Earth files on the web map as well. So the other way around. We did get another question that this one is from Ray, and I'm going to send this one to Lance. Will your scoping map detail current designated routes opposed to additional designated routes? So will our map detail current designated routes opposed to possible additional routes? Thanks.
So which question, read it one more time to me, please, Rachel.
Oh yeah, so Ray asked, will your scoping map detail current designated routes opposed to possible additional routes? And Lance, if you're not the right person for this, maybe we can go, we might have to think about this one.
You know, I'm not sure I exactly am getting at what Ray is asking, you know, if that detailed current designated route opposed to the possible. So, you know, our scoping map includes all of the inventories that we have found out there. And so we want folks to take a look at that inventory, take a hard look at those designated routes in the, well, they're not designated routes, but take a look at the inventories and those routes, and we can go from there.
Perfect.
So I think most of the inventory routes, it doesn't really show whether or not the route is currently open or closed. And I'm not sure if that's what Ray is getting at, but the inventoried routes are there, and we will take a look at the analysis. And in this AA, we'll have several alternatives that we will consider with each of those routes.
Thank you so much, Lance.
Thank you.
That's really helpful. We got another, or I think we're going to go to another one of our questions here that is a frequently asked question. So, are the decisions in the travel management plan permanent? And this one's going to go to Chris. So, are the decisions in the travel management plan permanent?
I think, as Lance said a couple nights ago, not much that we do is permanent. Almost everything we do is up for reevaluation at some other time. You know, our RMP is supposed to last, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And yet even within that, we're always modifying things. But there's a process for us to modify them. If we find that there's new routes that we want to open, for the most part, there's a process to do it. And likewise, if we discover that there's a good reason for a route to be closed, it also then would be closed. I would like to add, though, you know, this travel management process does not really include oil and gas development, mining, and some other things that we do on the land. And if those processes happen, that would also be in an EA, be analyzed, and may or may not actually be part of the travel management plan.
Thanks, Chris. And don't go too far, because I have another one for you.
Okay.
How does the BLM identify whether a route will remain open, closed, or limited?
Well, it's actually a lot of work. We have to make sure that we have all the information that we can, and we go through an interdisciplinary and an interagency process where everybody looks at it, evaluates it, make sure that the destination is one that's worthy. We put it in one of the alternatives, and then through the process, we decide whether or not it's approved or not. So it's really the whole long process.
Thanks so much. Oh, go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, Chris, I would just like to add on there that, um, all routes that have not been cherry stemmed out of the wilderness under the Dingle Act, would have to be closed under all alternatives. So I think maybe that clarification might help folks as well.
True.
Thank you.
Great. Well, and we had another question come in about photo documentation for routes, and I'm not exactly sure who to address this one to, but the question is, does every inventory route have photo documentation? Who is our best person to answer this one? Does anyone want to hop in?
Is Evan on?
Evan, we're going to look to you. We have Evan Glenn is our travel and transportation management lead for the BLM in Utah. Hi, Evan.
Hi, everyone. And again, I just want to make sure I'm answering the proper question. Does every inventory route have photo documentation? Generally, the answer is yes. We have many photos from our inventory, and we look to those. We have a handful of different monitoring requirements based on the settle agreement that are also providing photo input. But it's a great question. And one thing that the commenters, or I should say people providing us scoping input, pictures are worth 1,000 words, and they are helpful in clarifying your question or your substantive concern. If you can provide a photo component of your question, that would be really helpful. But generally, yes, each route has some photo related to it.
Great, thanks, Evan. And if you could stay on for just a second, we have another question, which, sometimes we hear from folks, how does travel management planning affect me? And I think in your role, you're well suited to answer this question. So can you answer it for us?
Okay, yeah, and I'm going to restate that question again, Rachel. The question I heard was, how does travel management planning affect me? And I'm going to put on my member of the public hat, because I am one of you on my time off. It's a great question, and it affects us all that recreate or somehow use our public lands. Again, keep in mind what Chris Conrad said earlier, that while we are talking about off-highway vehicles, that does include me traveling through the San Rafael Swell in my pickup truck. It includes me traveling through the swell in my friend's Subaru. It impacts all sorts of access and connectivity across and through the swell, and the experiences that we have. Often all I'm doing is just driving through a place to enjoy it from the seat of my preferred vehicle or bicycle or something like that. But generally, we're focused on motorized vehicles in this plan. But it's a great question, and please don't take for granted. I know you're not, because you're here joining us tonight, but it does affect us on how we get to and how we access our public lands. So again, I think it's a great point, and thanks for joining us here, because it shows your interest in our public lands.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. We have another question. This one's from Scott, and we'll direct this one to both Joelle and to Chris. Are there any Utah state trust lands in this area that are affected? And so Chris and Joelle, if you could join us. Great.
We'll let Joelle go first.
Thanks, Chris. We do not designate across state lands. So I will say that Utah State Land is a partner. The state of Utah is a partner on this project and will provide input as a cooperating agency and help us make the decisions about the BLM routes that lead up to state trust lands.
Okay. Let me add too that in the in the evaluations that we have and will have, we discuss each route, and many of them do go through SITLA parcels. And if they do, we take note of it. We want to make sure that if requested, that we continue to give access to SITLA parcels. It doesn't mean that they have to have 3 or 4 routes in, but we are obligated to give some access to any in holdings, and they would be one, as would any private land holding.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. And Joelle brought up our partners, and so I wanted to ask who else are our cooperating agencies on this? And I'll direct this one to Chris and then Joelle if you have anything to add. So, who are our cooperators on this? Are they counties and cities, or who are they?
We've had a number of people at the table, and I'm sure I'll be remiss and miss a few, but we have people there from SITLA. We have people from FLPCO, the state of Utah. We have Emery County representatives. We've invited state parks and the National Park Service, although I don't know that we've had anybody from Canyonlands or any of the national parks. Evan, am I missing anybody as far as cooperators?
Chris, I think we have Capitol Reef National Park as a cooperating agency. And I don't know if you mentioned U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
I didn't, so thanks for the reminder.
You bet.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks, Lance and Chris. And we have another question that I'm going to direct to Evan related to RS 2477. And the question from Ben is, are RS 2477 roads, trails identified in the TMP process?
Yeah, we've received a few questions about that tonight, and just to build off, I believe it was Lance that introduced the project tonight. Our travel planning processes in the BLM do not base their decisions based on an RS 2477 assertion. It's generally noted as we're going through the route by route process that a given route is on the RS 2477 assertion list, but it doesn't provide bearing on our decision. And this also helps me circle back to a point that was made earlier, that the BLM travel planning process is dynamic, and the plan that we have at the end of this process, while it didn't account for potential adjudications in the future of RS 2477 routes, when and if those adjudications happened, we would just go ahead and, using the dynamic processes we have for our travel planning, adjust the travel plan accordingly to do what the outcome of that RS 2477 claim is. So I hope that makes sense.
That's super helpful, Evan. And I have another one for you too. So another question that we often get about travel management planning is, why does the BLM, or how does BLM choose whether to include or exclude a route from the inventory process?
Well, that's a very deep question, Rachel. Generally, and this will be probably described in chapter 2 of our eventual environmental assessment document. But there's lots of ways that the BLM can go about gathering that data. As Lance mentioned, in this area, we have done an on-the-ground inventory of routes that are in existence in some way, shape, or form. And then we move the process forward from there, but there's lots of different filters that applied, and not everything that's on the initial inventory will land in the subset of routes that are finally considered for designation and brought forward in the process. And similarly, I suppose then each of those through the process as described here will ultimately be given a OHV designation as open, closed, or limited, but there's a lot of filters that kind of happen prior to us landing on the subset of routes considered for designation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evan. We really appreciate that. The next question that I'll direct to Lance is a question about our, the analysis, but it's, will a fair and balanced analysis be conducted to ensure that popular generational routes remain open? And so that's one that I'll direct to Lance.
Thank you, Rachel. Our agency is going to take very seriously all of the comments and questions we receive through the scoping process. And we always look really hard at the data to do a really fair and balanced analysis of all of those resources. BLM is a multiple use mandated agency, and we manage lots of multiple uses. But every resource, we do everything we can to ensure that they all receive that fair balance. It's a balancing act that is difficult, yet at the same time, it's really rewarding to see how our public lands can be managed and to involve so many stakeholders and members of the public. So if anybody has a specific question or concern about a specific route, it'd be a great opportunity for you to write down your comment on that route and maybe what those resource concerns are regarding that specific route, and get it submitted to us through scoping so that we can take a hard look at it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Lance. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to add too that we're not the only ones that look at the cultural resources. It's a third-party contractor that does the initial investigation. We accept their recommendation on things that come to significance or could be significant, and then those get run through SHPO, the state historic properties. And so it's kind of a collaborative look at cultural resources. To speak specifically on cultural resources, that's some of the process.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And I have another one for you and Joelle. So Joelle and Chris, when can I hike or ride trails within the San Rafael Swell TMP area?
Joelle must be waiting for me this time.
Probably.
So I don't know, she's way down south and so far west, it might be a different weather pattern than our office, but you can go out right now. So, I mean, it's really year round, depending on the weather. You just want to make sure you don't get stuck or snowed in, or in the summer, it's awful hot. So anytime, I think.
Yep, I agree. In the Sevier County area, the routes that are open are open for OHV use or for hiking, or however you'd like to recreate there. I do believe there's snow right now, so it's probably better to wait for a little while.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have about, looks like we're at about 8:50, or sorry, we're at about 6:50. And so we have a few more some more time for questions. So please do, put your questions into the box. We really appreciate those. I also, want to draw people's attention to the commenting tool that's still up on your screen. So, using the commenting tool is a great way to help us better understand your perspective and the knowledge that you bring to this process. So Dan is using his mouse to show us the URL. That URL is in the chat, and we really do appreciate your time for your time and your interest in that process. So the next question that we're going to look to is, does the development of the comprehensive travel management plan for the San Rafael Swell change how I recreate in the swell? And this one I'm going to direct to Evan from his expertise in travel management planning. So, how will this plan change how folks recreate in the swell?
Rachel, I'm going to just restate the question, make sure I'm answering it right. Your question was, how will this plan change how people recreate in the San Rafael Swell?
That's correct.
Okay. I think first of all, I don't anticipate that, we don't want to be pre-decisional or anything, but, we're looking at a plan to provide a very clear, very comprehensive system of OHV routes in the San Rafael Swell. So, I don't anticipate big changes in this plan resulting in big changes in the way that people recreate in the swell. Our hope is that we provide clarity in the system of routes that are available, and everything that builds on from that, good maps, quality data that the public can get a hold of. So, I don't think that there's any real big change resulting in this and how people recreate in the swell other than clarity of the route system that is available.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Evan. That is really helpful. And if you could stay on for just a second, we have one more question about baseline route inventories. This question is about the baseline route inventory for the no action alternative. Can you tell us a little bit about the information we use for that baseline inventory?
I'm sorry, Rachel, I'm sorry, I broke up a little bit. What was the question again?
Yeah, so the question was about our baseline route inventory. And, they're curious about what, what data we use for our baseline route inventory.
Okay, I'm just going to be a little cautious about the term baseline here. I think that might mean different things to different people based on the settlement and other things that refer to different components of baseline. But what we did is in the area, we started a handful of years ago with a true what's called on the ground inventory to discover the actual routes that are in existence and on the ground and being used to some level or degree. And then we started that filtration process I mentioned earlier from that on the ground inventory and moved some of those routes forward based on those filters. Ultimately, some of those got brought forward for consideration for designation through this plan. So ultimately, the answer is based on an on the ground inventory.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. That's great. So, we had another question come in about, what it means to designate new roads and would the BLM designate new roads as a part of this travel management process? And this one I'm going to direct to Chris and, Joelle, if you want to chime in as well.
This is also a more difficult question than you might think. It looks simple, but it's not. And so I'm going to ask for some help from Evan again. And so Evan, if you would pop in and help us with that.
You bet. And again, I think the question was based on new routes. And so again, going back to my previous response, our process here is based on an on-the-ground inventory of things that exist now. So I think it's a helpful question because one of the things that we are not entertaining through this process is new routes, a road that hasn't been constructed or been driven in the past that leads to something that you'd like to see, a new experience or a new access point. That is not what we're entertaining at this point. Again, we're looking at our inventory of things that exist on the landscape, and we can categorize all of those, get that level done, and then we move into that dynamic process of future travel planning if we need to adjust that system, add routes, subtract routes, again, based on the sideboards of Dingle Act and our resource management plan and other things like that. I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you so much, Evan. I want to address a question that we got at the end of our last meeting too. We're in the middle of our last meeting, I think, which is, how can I access either this presentation or, the documents for this project? And this presentation is actually already, Dan is highlighting the link that's in your chat too, but the presentation is already there. So, if you want to take a look at either that presentation or those documents, please do visit the BLM's e-planning website, and folks' contact information is there as well too. So if you have additional questions or things like that, we encourage you to let us know. And we're running close to the end of our meeting, so I want to invite Joelle and Chris and then Lance to help close us out tonight.
So thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and thank you all the panelists for the great presentation and answering the questions. Thank you for all of the questions today, and we hope that we receive some comments from everybody. If you do have any questions, reach out to either of the field offices, Price Field Office or Richfield Field Office. We do have hard copy maps in our offices, and we're happy to take any questions or any questions or any help we can provide for you. So thank you.
Thanks, Joelle.
Yes, thank you. And from the Price Field Office, I want to thank you for visiting us tonight. And like with Joelle, if you have any questions or concerns, we do want you to reach out and use the comment tool. That's the best way to go. But you can also come into our office and talk to us that way. And we'd welcome that. So thanks again.
All right, it's my turn to close us out. This is the hour everybody's been waiting for me to close the meeting. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm grateful that we have this format to be able to reach out to everybody. Honestly, I prefer our open houses where we can go into a room together, all gather around a map. We can have an open house format, visit with one another and get to know each of our partners and so many members of the public. During these times though, we're doing this live meeting and hopefully you've gained some knowledge from it. We hope that you recognize just how serious the BLM takes these travel management plans. We care about the resources, we care about the members of the public, and we care about the experiences that we have. Just as we mentioned earlier tonight, along with each of you enjoying experiences out on the public land, all of us love our public lands as well. And that's one reason why we care so much about it, and we just love working for the agency. So we hope you'll take the time to provide us some valuable feedback. As Joelle and Chris mentioned, we have hard copies of the maps. If you struggle with it online, we are really here to help you. And so don't hesitate to stop in to the Richfield Field Office, Price Field Office, or even to the district office here in Vernal, where we have those hard copy maps printed, and you're able to look at our public room and come in wearing a face covering, of course, and socially distance and all of those things to keep us all safe. But we welcome your feedback and look forward to receiving the scoping comments at the end of the comment period. Thank you for taking the time tonight. I know that when you take time away, well, you're also taking time away from your family or doing something else. And so we really appreciate the time that you spent with us this evening. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening and enjoy in the public lands. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.